Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Football Shocks, Football Agenda. We've got a lot in store for you today, but there's only three of us. After Arsenal's poor performance recently, two of them haven't even bothered to start.
Gone missing. Sound of silence.
Doing their best John Cena impressions, aren't they?
We cannot see them.
In the meantime, let's plod on without them. We want to talk about everything that's happened in the last couple of weeks, because obviously we didn't manage to upload anything last week. Bit of a shambles. We'll make sure it don't happen again. Should we introduce ourselves first? We've got John, big Luton Town fan.
Colt K, Leeds fan.
James Rocker, Manchester United fan.
And two John Cena's around the back.
I just think it's hilarious that they conveniently can't make it this week. Especially Shay.
I was going to say, more so Shay, yeah.
It does bring us to our first topic, which was going to be, once again, Arsenal, their poor performance. And none of us are Arsenal fans, so I don't know why we're talking about them so much.
Well, I can actually just start by laughing a lot about them because it is just the funniest thing. I mean, they've been in a bad run of form, but I think I actually said last week, they're playing Burnley at home. They'll win it. I don't think they'll be great, but they'll win it and they'll start to get some momentum back. But for them to go and lose to fucking Burnley at home, I'm still laughing a few days later. What the fuck? Burnley is Manchester's arsehole. And they've just lost to them at home.
Within a Aubameyang own goal as well.
Yeah. They even had fans there and they still lost, which I think is hilarious. Arsenal fans waited 9 months to see their club play again in the Premier League. They lose 1-0 to Burnley and they go back into lockdown.
The gift that keeps on giving.
It is. And you know what? The Southampton game yesterday, I didn't watch it because Leeds were playing at the same time. But from what I hear, they were quite lucky to get away with a point from that as well. They would be quite poor. And the worry for Arsenal fans now is they've got Everton and Chelsea next. They could very conceivably lose them and they could be right in a relegation battle. And the worry is, you've seen Arsenal play before and get in bad runs, but you've always thought they've got goals in them. And they'll get out of it. They just had a bit of bad luck. Whereas this Arsenal team, you're looking at them, goals are dried up. Aubameyang's been poor, and you can't see. Yeah, they don't look like a decent team in a bit of a rut. They look like a poor team playing about where the level's at. They really do. Some of the performances I've seen, especially against Burnley, they were awful. They were shocking. They didn't really threaten at all, apart from a 10-minute period, which Xhaka then fucked up by doing his best Undertaker impression. It's poor. And I mean, Arsenal fans should be worried, and I am planning my party. I am planning my party for May because, all banter aside, they're in relegation form. And if they don't pull out of it soon, they're going to be in a relegation battle, which is brilliant.
The thing is, Kieran, obviously we do want to try and remain neutral, don't we? And give some thoughts for Arsenal's favour as well. Problem is, it's just not possible right now.
Well, exactly.
Nothing's happening. I'm just looking at the table. See, the only teams that have scored less than them are Burnley, West Brom, who are one behind, and Sheffield United. It's relegation form for.
Yeah, and Arsenal need to remember, because all players are, all this relegation talk's ridiculous. No team is too big to go down. And my team is a perfect example of that. A couple of years before we went down, we were playing in the Champions League semi-final. And we went down with a team, in my opinion, that man for man is better than this Arsenal team at the minute. Mark Viduka, Harry Kewell, Alan Smith, Ian Hart, Gary Kelly, Paul Robinson. We went down with these kind of players.
Yeah, but would they play against Arsenal today? It's a different game these days.
No, but my point is that was a very good side that was playing in the Champions League, and 3 years later got relegated. No team is too big to go down. Right. If Arsenal don't pull out of it quickly, they're going to be right in that dogfight. And if they get in the dogfight, it's very hard to get out of.
For a team like Arsenal, though, I mean, say if in January they were still around the relegation zones, that is when the owners would start forking out. They're not going to go down to the Championship. They wouldn't allow it.
Who would go to Arsenal right now?
If the money was there, I think there's plenty of options for them.
I mean,
what
James,
money is there? I just don't know what money, when they're not forking out for the players that they need in the summer. Where's this money magically just going to appear from? What's most alarming, I think, of the past few performances are the 2 red cards, I think, as well. Just with Xhaka getting sent off against Burnley, Gabriel getting sent off against Southampton. It's showing that there's, a lack of discipline in the team. And is it because they're getting nervous as well? Is it because they're realizing how terrible they're playing and they just don't have the bottle for it? It's probably quite understandable in some ways, with a lot of those players have never been possibly in a situation like that before. You know, they've never had to dig deep and do maybe the really ugly side of the game just to grab some points, because they don't see themselves as being the underdogs, which right now I think they need to see themselves as that. When they're lining up against Southampton, I mean, just in my fantasy football team, I put Walker Peters in defence and I put McCarthy in goal because I expected a Southampton clean sheet. I'm furious that I didn't get it because I just don't expect Arsenal to score at the moment. I expected a Southampton win. It just
2-point drop for Southampton, really. If I was Southampton, I'd be annoyed. I think it's hilarious that Walcott scored as well, which I thought was brilliant. You just knew he was going to score. Like Bradley said before, it's just what minute he's going to score in, and of course he does. And now they play Everton, so they've got Iwobi, and Chelsea have got Giroud. So they could have 3 games in a row with former players sticking it to them, and I just think it's hilarious. And I am enjoying their tears. I really am.
I mean, a player that I thought might actually be a good buy for them, and I think they could get him fairly cheap if Liverpool are willing to let him go. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain, bring him back to Arsenal, whether or not they'd want him. But he's an attacking midfielder that's got a bit of creativity, can play on the wing if he needed to. Because he's not playing at all at Liverpool.
I'd rather
at least it's back
bench than play for them bums.
Well, yeah, but you clearly hate Arsenal, mate. Like you're not exactly impartial. Let's be honest.
No, but it's a backward step in his career, and I think Klopp does like Oxlade-Chamberlain. It's ridiculous. Why, for me, Liverpool again, the favourites for the title? Why would he leave that for a relegation battle in mid-season? It's just Arsenal. Let's get it right. Arsenal.
He wants to play football at the end of the day. Like if I'm not even getting selected for the bench, which Oxlade-Chamberlain isn't for a lot of games.
I must admit, I agree with James.
What benefits that to my career? What benefits that to my England chances? Because Oxlade-Chamberlain is still good enough to possibly get into the England team.
But it's the exact thing that Dean Henderson did at United. And James, I know you think he's a player as well, but he chose to be on the sub bench when he could have gone to a smaller club that had a bigger opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. But I don't think, from United's perspective, I wouldn't have sold him, but I would have loaned him out again this year, personally. Because I still felt De Gea, it was still going to be our number one keeper. And he's got a few. Henderson's had a few chances this season, though, and he's done all right. So I can't complain there. But he's not getting as much game time as I personally would like him to get. But I just want to, I suppose, bring that back to Arsenal. What's everyone's views then on Arteta out?
Well,
are we all thinking he should be? I mean,
we know that Shea had finally said
Shea's cracked. Yeah, Shea's cracked.
But is Bradley still defending him? I'm not too sure about.
I think so. Yeah,
I think he is. He keeps saying he doesn't have the resources.
But see, you know what? I think I agree with that. I think many managers would struggle in his position right now.
Bradley's still Arteta in just because he thinks the board is the issue. And to an extent, I agree with him because the board, they don't give a fuck. The board, I've always said it. I hate Arsenal because they're not a football club. They're a tourist business. And it's been proved more and more that is what the owners see them as. So that is a major problem. But for me, despite all that, with the players he's got, Arteta should not be 15. That is my problem. He is not good enough. Shea has finally snapped. Bradley hasn't yet, but I think that's because Bradley doesn't want to admit I was right. Because the fact is, he's an orange peeler. He's Pep's ball boy who had a little bounce at the start. Got, I think, very lucky winning the FA Cup because in both games against City and Chelsea, for me, they were the worst team. I think they just got quite lucky in those games.
I think they're better than Chelsea in the final.
Maybe, but City, they got battered. City, they got battered and they got a couple of goals on the counter and it was, Arteta masterclass. No, it wasn't. They were just, I think they got very lucky in that game. If they play City 10 times, City beat them 8 of them. And you're seeing it now. He's Pep's ball boy. He always has been, always will be. And I think he'll be on the phone to Pep already asking for his old job back. The only problem now is getting into our next topic, if it relates to it. West Brom have now got Big Sam, so he's off the table for Arsenal. They can't bring him in to stave off relegation, can they?
That's a crazy
disgusted by that.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Well, we need to talk about that as well.
All right. Well, I think we've had enough of Arsenal for one day, haven't we?
Yeah. Well, let's dive into the Bilic being sacked.
Yeah.
You keep an eye out on social media for some of Bradley and Shay's views as well, because they will get out of their shells eventually. But for the time being, yeah, let's move on. West Bromwich Albion have sacked their manager, replaced him with Sam Allardyce. And I think we all agree it's a ridiculous decision to get rid of someone who's performing so well with the team that he had. I mean, a draw against Man City, and then suddenly he's at the boot.
I've had mixed reactions when speaking about it with some other friends as well. Well, I mean, someone said it, and I actually thought this was a pretty good quote, I suppose, from them, was that Bilic got promoted from the Championship a season earlier than he should have. And it's because of that he's been sacked. He did so well in his first season, which they didn't expect him to do. He's got promoted with a team that clearly doesn't have the capabilities of really competing much in the Premier League more than they are. I mean, if the board expects more from this West Brom team, I think they're deluded. They might be able to escape relegation with that team, but they're going to be battling for it regardless. Like they're not a mid-table team. They're definitely not pushing for any European places. So they're going to be down there regardless. And I still think my biggest thing with Sam Allardyce is, and I had some disagreements with some friends about this, but I don't see what Sam Allardyce has ever done in his career to justify keep getting Premier League appointments. He's
a relegation specialist, isn't he? That's what he's there for.
Oh yeah, but what's his speciality? Getting teams out of relegation, yes, but then he just gets them right back in and then gets sacked before they get relegated, which is why he's never been relegated with a team from the Prem.
I think he's probably riding on his time with Bolton first time round.
I was going to say that's the only time I give him real credit, and I think he did a really good job at Bolton. But beyond that, when he got appointed as the England manager, I was disgusted. I think Kieran will remember a lot of that. I was like, the answer to our problems after Roy Hodgson was Sam Allardyce, and I was like, so I was pretty happy that he only lasted a game, but I don't deny he might be able to turn things around at West Brom and get them out of the relegation battle to a certain extent, but I still think they're going to be there or thereabouts next season, and he's going to be in probably the same position Bilic is, and will end up getting sacked within 18 months, I reckon.
The issue with this one is, it's a very difficult one to kind of analyse, because I get the logic of why they've done it. Allardyce has never been relegated. He's a specialist in getting teams out of relegation. And because of where they are and how they've started, I get the West Brom owners have been like, right, our target this season is to stay up. We don't think we'll do that under Slaven. We'll get Allardyce in. So I get the logic there. But the fact of the matter is, Slaven has done such a good job there. It is so unfair and harsh for them to sack him this early into a season, especially when they just got a draw against City away as well. So, I get why they're worried about relegation. For me, West Brom will always be favourites for it, because for me they were decent in the Championship. I mean, Leeds, we won the league by 10 points. So they were far below us.
Luton's games against them, we were all over them in the home game.
Yeah, they weren't a great team, but for me, Slaven did a really good job getting them promoted. But so I get the logic, but also, like James said, what the fuck did the owners expect coming to the Premier League in the first season? Any promoted team, their goal and their only goal is to stay up in the first year. They expect to lose more games than they win. They expect to be down there a bit. And if you think anything else, you're deluded. And that's my question to the owners. What did they expect Slaven to do 13 games into a Premier League season? Of course they're going to be battling relegation. Of course they're going to be down there. But for me, he'd shown enough to show that he had some fight. He's not Sheffield United. He hasn't got 1 point from the first 13 games. If that was the case, then I could understand it. But they've shown some fight. They got a draw against Chelsea where they went 3-0 up. I just think it's a very, very harsh decision. I think they jumped the gun. And I do think with Sam, they might stay up. But like James said, they're not going to go anywhere from there. I still think they're favourites to me. I think them, Fulham and Sheffield United are probably going to go down.
I think unanimously. I don't know a single person who said that it was a good decision. James, you mentioned that a couple of your friends were
The odd one, yeah, sort of highlighting what Kieran said, where they're in a relegation scrap. Sam Allardyce is known for getting teams out of it, so it's a good, it's a good appointment due to that, and because of that, the amount of money that they will get and keep for another season by staying in the Premier League is massive, and I suppose you can't deny that. But
yeah,
I just don't know how much of a difference it will honestly make. And
it's
I just
just
think
such a shame that is what it is all about now. Money. They're just going to be playing hoofball for the rest of the season and hoping to pick up draws every now and then. And yeah, it's not. If I was a Brom fan right now, I wouldn't be happy.
I hope they go down. I really do. I hope they get what they deserve in this case and go down, because I think it's just such a harsh decision. And I mean, football doesn't live in the real world, because when you sack these managers this quickly, if you're in your job and you get sacked this quickly when you're performing okay, sure, you've got a case for unfair dismissal. Like, I don't know if there's something written into contracts in football, but I just genuinely don't think it lives in the real world. I really don't. It's just unbelievable to me. Again, I get the logic, but I just think it's such a ridiculous decision. And yeah, it just shows, like John said, it shows you where football is.
I mean, the only other upside to it, I can think why they've done it now, is he gets a couple of weeks to see the team prior to the January transfer window.
Yeah.
Is my only sort of, I suppose, way of saying why they've done it now. But I mean, you mentioned before, Sheffield United, 1 point.
Yeah, that would be grounds for dismissal.
Yeah. Chris Wilder doesn't even have any sort of talk about him being sacked. And if anything, maybe he should be. But credit to Sheffield United for, I think, sticking with the manager and thinking that he can get them out of it. I mean, look what I think. Southampton are the prime example of sticking with the manager.
Yeah.
Because Hasenhuttl could have easily been sacked after that 9-0 loss to Leicester last year.
I would have sacked him after that, if I'm honest.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. You can't lose 9-0 at home.
And I think I read something sort of about it on BBC the other week, and they've clearly, I think, apparently the day after, he went to meet the owner or CEO or whatever of Southampton, and they sat down, and apparently there wasn't even any mention of him losing their job, of his job. Instead, it was, okay, you're doing this, and this. How can we take that off your plate, that off your plate, and that off your plate, so that you can just focus on how to get the best out of the players? Something to that degree. Do you know what I mean? And they then and then either brought in other people to help him out, or do this, do that within the company. And since then, he's playing a brand of football now that he really wants to. He's got seemingly players now in quite a lot of positions that they've got a bit of depth to them, Southampton, and they're absolutely bossing it at the moment. That they could easily, I mean, it's crazy to think they could get a top 4 finish and definitely probably push for a Europa League place at the rate that they're going.
They look very good.
Yeah,
they really do. Should we move on then, guys, to our topic? This was chosen by I wonder who. It is Leeds United. Pretty stunning victory against Newcastle. It was a 5-2, and it was at Ellen Road, was it, Kieran?
Hammering of Antondet FC last night. It was, you know what, I really needed that, because after the West Ham game on Friday where we lost 2-1, I said that is the first time I've genuinely been concerned about relegation, because we can't defend set pieces. And, it happened again on Friday where we'd lost the game because of it. And it was worrying, because if you come up in this league and you can't defend set pieces, you're going to lose a lot of games. Yesterday, I'm still worried about it because we conceded again from a corner. So, I mean, it hasn't been wiped off my mind completely. I'm still really concerned about it. It's still a weakness of ours.
Well, the first goal was a cross, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, they were both.
So,
I mean, the first
so do you think
goal,
it's just crossing in general?
Yeah, I think the issue is we're not a big team, especially with Koch and Llorente at the side. I think our tallest player is 6'1", so I think we're always going to be in danger from set pieces. With teams, West Ham especially, have got Souček, Ogbonna. They've got a lot of tall players in their team, but for me, we don't defend them well enough, and we need to sort it out. But when we get those centre-backs back, we may well sort it out. But yesterday, again, we conceded from a corner. again, I was fuming. It was too easy. But the difference this time was we took the chances we created, which we've been threatening to do this all season, give a team a hammering, because we get so many shots, we create so many chances. For me, this was always going to happen, and it's the perfect time for it to happen, because we've got our biggest game of the season on Sunday against the Scum. We have got the biggest game of our season. In fact, the biggest Leeds game in years on Sunday. So we needed this. And yeah, I think we were fantastic yesterday in terms of finally finishing our fucking dinner. Harrison's goal was class. Unbelievable. An absolute bullet. But my favourite one is the Rodrigo one, where Harrison, he's pinged the ball wide. Harrison, at full stretch, has controlled it. And a lot of players, because it looked like it's going out, would have given up on it. But he hasn't. He's fizzed the ball in. And Rodrigo, it was just brilliant to see. It was so good to see us finally get rewarded for the football we play. And yeah, we look in a lot more healthier position after that game. And it gives us a lot of confidence going into Old Trafford on Sunday, which I know for a fact James is now worried about, I think, after watching those goals.
To be honest, this result's not changed my opinion of you in any way. You've been playing the same way all season. Do you know what I mean?
It finally clicked, though, is my point. It finally came together.
But then, at the same time, you played West Ham the other day and you were bloody shite. So,
it does,
do you know what I mean?
Consistency.
It's whether or not I think this style of football, you can constantly keep it going. And that's...
Won't be the issue. The issue will be set pieces. We will keep this going. We kept it going in the Championship, and that is long. That has more games than the Premier League. The issue will be...
You had a drop-off. Towards the end of the last season, you definitely had a drop-off at one point. You picked it back up again.
We had a bad run of form. We had a bad run of form around January, but the end of the season, I think we won like 5 in a row.
I'm talking about January then. I must be thinking about that.
Yeah, we had a drop-off.
Kieran, I remember we were talking, there was 9 games that you won 8 and you drew against Luton. And
True.
I think that's 25 points from 27 games. So we've done it in the Championship, we'll do it in the Premier League. My issue for me is that set pieces and crosses are our weakness, and that is where we'll get hurt from.
But saying that, the one thing that I consider as well was those 9 games that you went on that run, was that after COVID? After the first lockdown?
I think it started before, but then it continued into...
Well, no, actually, but before COVID, before lockdown, we won 5 in a row as well. Yeah. So, it wasn't a case of running out of steam, it being our weakness. It's a case
it gave them time to get energy back, though, is my point. Which,
same for every team.
Of course, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, United went on a great run, do you know what I mean, at the end of last year as well. And maybe partly it was to do with that. Players got some energy back in their legs. But just to talk about, I suppose, the Leeds game, I thought it was... I didn't really watch the game. I saw some of it, saw the first goal you conceded, saw the first goal you scored, and saw the last 2 goals you scored. And sort of kept tabs with how the stats were going in the game. Yeah, you seem like you absolutely dominated it. You had the most shots, I think, out of any team in the Premier League so far in the first half, and yet you only had 1 goal. So seemingly, though, that was going along the same leads that we've seen in recent weeks, where you're just not taking your chances. Second half, you got it together. So it's hard to say. I think you're definitely a dangerous team on the press. If the press works against United on the weekend, we can crumble at the back. I'm not going to defend our defence this season with some of the shocking things that they've done. But alternatively, if we beat the press with the attacking talent we've got, we can really hurt you. And with crosses, with a player like Maguire, we can boss you from corners and things. So I'm confident we can win the game, and I think we should win the game. At the end of the day, like you always like to say with the Arsenal team, the amount of money we've spent on our squad, we should be beaten.
Yeah.
So
we are going to be just as well. Me and James will be doing a special preview of the game on Sunday. That'll be coming out this weekend, so we'll go into that in more detail.
Yeah.
But John, as an impartial party, I don't know if you watched the game last night, but what do you think of Leeds in the Premier League so far?
Well, I must admit, although they did have a dip in recent form until the other day, I think you're well on track to getting what you predicted at 11th place at the end of the season. And it'll be well deserved, to be honest. You've settled into it a lot better than what most people thought. The fact that you can see West Brom and Fulham doing so poorly right now shows the difference in level between the Prem and the Championship. And yeah, you
Well,
flourished. So fair play.
The one for me that really I think has surprised even me is Bamford. How well?
Yeah.
I mean, I was concerned because in the Championship he scored I think 16 goals last year, but the amount of chances he missed, it was a concern because stepping up to the Premier League, would he get that many? And if he doesn't take them, but he has been so good. He's got 10 goals this season already. He's outscoring Aubameyang. And he's a big surprise in terms of how he stepped up. He really is. And if I'm honest, if he's going on like this, he's putting himself right in the frame of the England squad because his link-up play and how he links stuff together could really work well in the way Southgate likes to play. Obviously, I think he's behind Kane, he's behind Calvert-Lewin, but as a backup option, I really think he could have a shout.
The thing is, there's quite a few England strikers at the moment doing it decent. Like Danny Ings, I think's obviously been playing really well in the past year or so. Shea Adams is actually doing quite well, I think, this season. Then you've got Callum Wilson's getting pretty much pretty much most of the goals at Newcastle at the moment. So it's tough for Bamford. I personally wouldn't see him fit into the England team. And I don't know if that's just me being harsh on him, but I can't see it happening. I think there's too many players ahead of him that are, I think, overall just a bit better. But he you can't deny he's 10 goals in 13 games.
Yeah,
he's given the chances and he's scoring them at the moment. I mean, I'm curious to know who was Leeds who was scoring for Leeds mostly last season in the Championship.
Bamford, he got 16 goals last season. Click as well, chipped him a few. Hernandez scored. Jack Harrison chipped in as well. But he was his main goal scorer for us last season. I think the criticism he got is he got 16 goals, but he should have got 30. The amount of chances he missed. But he's taking his chances this season. But also his general link-up play is fantastic. And he's really repaying the faith Bielsa's shown in him. And yeah, to see him doing well is brilliant. And like I said, to see him outscoring pretty much the whole Arsenal team is even better.
Has there been a reason why he's become so much more consistent then? Is it the players he's around?
I think for me, it's in the Premiership, he's actually getting more space because when we're in the Championship, teams would just sit back against Leeds and just try and soak up pressure and nick a goal on the counter. Whereas in the Premier League, teams come out against us, play more football, and because of that, I think he's got a bit more space to make runs in behind, to hold up play, to lay things off. So, yeah, I think he does suit him well. I just think he's got a bit more space to work in. Because in the Championship, you'd have two defenders man-marking him, and then you normally have a DM as well sitting on him, and it will make it really difficult. It's more space, I feel, and long may it continue, because I am loving seeing a guy who Shea called Patrick Bamford for a whole year, scoring more goals than the whole Arsenal team. It's brilliant.
Before we move on to the last topic then, guys, I know you're doing your preview anyway, but let's do a little predictions match for the coming match. So, United and Leeds, what do you think the score is going to be?
James, you go first.
I think a lot of it depends on how United do tonight. I'm not confident. We're playing the team that's only got 1 point in the league, and I have a funny feeling we're going to be that team that cocks it up and we'll give them a win or something. But nah, I'm going to be confident. So we win tonight, and I think we're going to beat Leeds 3-1. I think we'll concede for sure.
I think we'll concede as well, but I just have a feeling that it's Leeds' time. Like, I really do. The thing is with this game, I've always said to James, yes, Man U are better than us. Yes, they have the better players. I can't argue that. It would be silly for me to. But this is a kind of game. It's like when England play Scotland. England are far better than Scotland, but you always know, because of the rivalry and the hate Scotland have for England, the players will rise their game by 20% because they're playing England. And that will be the same in this game. Leeds players will raise their game by 20%, give that extra effort in, and it's going to make it a very, very interesting game. And I just feel like it's Leeds' time. I think one of the last times we went to Old Trafford, we were in League One, we beat them there. This game does not play by the rules in terms of form, in terms of anything. James knows that better than anyone. So I think we're going to do United. I really do. And I'm going to go 3-1 Leeds.
3-1 either way from you two.
Yeah.
I must
There'll be goals. We'll concede as well.
while I would agree with you, Kieran, form does go out the window in derbies and everything. It's not happening this season. You must have seen that by now. Luton played Watford for the first time in the league in 16 years, something like that. It was boring, and it's because there was no fans there. It makes so much difference. How
which
many?
is what I've said.
Yeah,
I get that, but
there's
I mean,
not going to be a 20% more, whatever you said. It's not going to happen.
No, trust me, there is. If you can't get a Leeds player up for this game, they shouldn't fucking be playing for the club.
Well,
We'll go into that in the preview, won't we?
Yeah, we'll go into it in the preview. But I mean, in terms of Luton, though, the point you made there in the Watford game, Luton, with all due respect, for me, is still a League One team. If you think how quickly they got promoted from League Two, League One Championship, and Watford to just come down from the Premiership as well. You have to remember that. So, and even then, it was still a very tight game.
It was a tight game. I mean, we can talk. I could probably talk about Luton for hours, but the reason
again the other day, didn't you?
we've lost and won and lost and won. We beat Norwich 3-1, top of the league. Norwich smashed Preston 3-0, and then go and lose to who was it yesterday? Fuck, I don't even remember. It was just Middlesbrough. It was Middlesbrough. A typical Neil Warnock performance. That's the one. Yeah, it was a 1-0 win, and it was just whack. But you say we're a League One team. We've settled into the Championship, mate. Despite having
but no, you get my point. In when I say Luton went from League Two, League One, Championship, they had successive promotions, and a lot of the players that are playing for them in League Two are still in the squad now.
Yeah, you're right.
So you've got to remember with Luton that they've achieved a lot more than what I think they're naturally capable of.
Yeah, we could probably say the same about any promoted team to begin with, other than, well, people probably saying the same about Leeds as well, quite often, aren't they? And the point is, we just don't know until they are actually playing in the league. Some follow, some don't. Look at Wickham this season. Have you been following them as well?
No, I don't really follow these low leagues, to be honest, mate.
Well, you will be next season when you're back in. Along with Arsenal.
Could you just imagine that? If Arsenal do go down, they will have to play Luton at Kenilworth Road. They've been to PSG and Napoli, Barca to Saint-Tropez, and now they're playing Luton. Luton away! Oh, it would actually make my life to see Arsenal fans walking up from the mall to fucking Kenilworth Road.
The funniest thing, right, is these away fans, when they do come in, they have to go through someone's literal back garden to get to the away stand. And there's always, every time, there's pictures on Twitter like, what the hell is this?
I just genuinely, it would be one of the funniest days of my life to see that happen. Could you imagine fan channels trying to film outside Kenilworth Road?
DC would be in his element though, wouldn't he? He's from Luton, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he is. Right. Yeah, but I mean, comedy central.
Let's get back to the topic at hand. Just before we move on, predictions for Man United Leeds. I'm going to go ahead and say I think there will be some goals. I think it'll be a 2-2 draw, and that'd be that. I think it'd be kind of anticlimactic because that's just what happens when Kieran gets these derbies in his head, and then it just doesn't pay off. So that's my thoughts. 2-2. Finally, guys, just a quick one, but let's talk about who we think is going to win the league this season. We've got a few contenders at the top. Obviously, Liverpool back again. Tottenham are doing incredibly well under Mourinho. James, as you mentioned, Southampton, Leicester are up there. And, of course, Everton is still 5th place at the time of recording.
I thought of this topic because we get into Christmas now, and around Christmas, you can normally tell who's going to be up there towards the end of the season. I don't think Southampton have got enough to win it. I don't think Leicester have either. We've talked about Brendan Rodgers before. Liverpool, to me, are still the favourites. I honestly, and this is not me winding up the Gooners, but Spurs are really, for the first time, I mean, under Poch, they had like whispers of it, but I never really thought they were a title-winning team under Poch. But under Mourinho and what I've seen of them, they're genuine contenders, and it wouldn't surprise me if they won it. They were quite unlucky last night to lose at Anfield. You can see Mourinho has made them, like you saw in the Amazon documentary, he was like, you're very nice guys, but for 90 minutes, I want you to be cunts. And he's put that in them. But they're doing certain things now.
There were a few moments I watched last night where they took the yellow card, where the player like running past them. They did the kick, on the heels. They were doing stuff that I was like, they were not doing that under Poch.
Mourinho, yeah, exactly. Mourinho's instilled that in them. They got Højbjerg and Sissoko sitting there in front of that defence. And they've got Son, Kane, Bergwijn. They've got up top who are so dangerous. But they've got players like Bale and Moura and Lamella on the bench who can come on and be dangerous as well. So for me, they have got everything a title-winning side needs. The only problem with Spurs is they're Spursy. That's literally it. Like they fuck it up. But Mourinho isn't Spursy, and I really, really think, despite the loss last night, they're genuine contenders, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did nick it from Liverpool.
It's a pretty common opinion this season after the way they've performed so far. It's been consistent. It's been Mourinho. Their attack has been top-notch. Bale hasn't made too much of an impact, though. James, do you think he'll come into play this year, or do you think it'll be Kane and Son?
I think it will be Kane and Son still. I think Bale is solely going to come into play if one of them picks up a relatively long-term injury. I think beyond that, he'll stick with the formation that he's been going with Son, Kane, and it's typically been Bergwijn's been the other option of the sort of front three. But if I was to give my sort of overall predictions, I don't think Tottenham will do it. I hate to say it, but I just think Liverpool have too much. I think that front three that Liverpool have, Jota, is obviously excellent as well, and I've raved about him in previous podcasts. But even with him getting injured, I still think as long as that front three are fit and they don't lose more than, they don't lose another person. Even still, Divock Origi's come up with some big goals when he's come back into the team. I just think they've got too much at the moment, Liverpool. I think the whole squad's just brilliant. Even with Van Dijk out injured, I think Fabinho is a brilliant player that is slotting in at centre-back brilliantly at the moment. And I just think Liverpool will do it again. But at the same time, I say it jokingly, I think, more than anything. But if United win our 2 games in hand, we're only 2 points off first place. And
you're right, yeah.
And who would have thought if Villa win their 3 games in hand? Well, I suppose it depends how tonight's game goes.
Yeah.
They could end up, I think, 1 point behind first place.
Mm-hmm.
And James, my question for you there though is: do you see this United team winning? Are you confident this United team will win their 2 games in hand?
No. Yeah.
Exactly.
The fact I have to think about it. No.
That's why they're not title contenders. You're not confident.
No, but that's what I said. I said it more jokingly more than anything. But what I'm trying to highlight, I think, is the season this year is just tighter than it's been in years, to the point that there are so many teams closely congested that are 1 win here, 1 loss there. It's changing the whole complexion of the table quite quickly. But I still think the most consistent team for me, whoever plays them, I'm confident they'll win, is Liverpool. I think Liverpool just have too much for teams at the moment, and I can't see them not winning the league again, and that upsets me.
I think, James, you just have to accept football goes in cycles, and United had their years of winning things and winning everything, and now it's Liverpool's time, because I think Klopp is going to be there at least another 5 years. I think he's going to win at least 2 more titles, and maybe even another European Cup one is there. He ain't going away. The team is built isn't exactly old either. Yeah, I think you just might have to just deal with it, because the fact is United had their time and it's Liverpool's now.
I think one of the bigger questions for Liverpool will be is if they do go and win the league again this season, a lot of those players that have been there quite a few years now, do they want to look at maybe going abroad and going to a new team? Do you know what I mean?
Like who?
Well, Wijnaldum's been linked with Barcelona. Mane and Salah I've seen links with here and there over the I suppose past couple of years. More Mane, I think, more than anyone, but with Madrid.
Barca and Madrid are in shambles at the minute, so I just can't see them leaving.
But it doesn't matter whether or not you believe that they're a shambles, because it's still the prestige of playing for one of those teams. You've kind of won everything you can in England at that point. You've won the Champions League, Club World Cup, the Premier League 2 years in a row. What more do you have to prove in England at that point? You can go to Barcelona and Real Madrid and live that kid's dream. Do you know what I mean? And you never know that. You always know, with one of those 2 teams, they're not going to be down for long. Real Madrid, there's a reason they're the record winners of the Champions League. they're flush with cash, and they'll sort out their problems sooner or later. And
let me tell you though, when in terms of Barca, just quickly, when Messi does go, Barca are going to have 3-4 years of being shit because
they already are.
Already. You can see it happening already. They're going to have 3-4 years of being shit because they're not going to be able to replace him.
They've put all their eggs in one basket.
Yeah, it's Messi FC.
I think it's more they didn't replace Xavi, haven't really replaced Iniesta. Puyol, I don't think they've ever really replaced. I think Dani Alves is a huge player, actually, when I look back on it now, that they never replaced. And I think it's just, when you're actually starting to add up all those players in the team, who have they actually replaced any of them with? That you could say, that's long term. De Jong? I think De Jong's the only one I could really say.
But that's another debate. You know my feelings about Barcelona, they're fucking cunts.
Yeah, that's true.
What do we reckon, guys? On that note, are we done for this week?
Yeah, I said, we're going to be doing a Man U Leeds special. But I think we're done.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back again next week. Tune in there. Take it easy.
So enthusiastic. It's Colt K. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week. And I'll be celebrating a Leeds win over Man U. That's how you fucking sign off. See you later.
All right.